This episode is sponsored by Ascend Media. If you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or business decision maker who wants more clients and customers to get to know, like, and trust you, call Ascend Media and let them show you how you can create a magnetic authority presence online everywhere and take your business and personal brand to the next level through podcasts, videos, social media strategies, and syndicating your authoritative message everywhere. Ascend, authority syndication, and position yourself to be recognized as the go-to leader of your industry. I remember my dad sometimes stumbling into the barn. Basically I could see he was just beaten down by the day. And when you're a farmer, you have 0 days off. You have no vacations. You work 7 days a week. He would get up at 4 a.m., start his day. He didn't have time to 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. I'm going to meditate and then do my stretching. Then I'm going to have tea. Then I'm going to read for a little while and then journal. Hell no. He got his ass out of bed. Maybe he'd get something quick to eat, and then he had to go to the barn.
Welcome to the Preeminence Podcast.
You cannot be a courageous leader if you're not vulnerable.
Your legacy is every life you've touched.
The only thing that changes our life long term is when we raise our standards.
Now is the time to take risk.
The way it's always been done isn't necessarily the way it should be done.
What is your dream? What do you think 2050, 2100 is going to look like?
The most incredible sort of mystery, I think, is now the question of what comes next.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Welcome to the Preeminence Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew J. Peters. Visit preeminence.tv to learn more about how to create a preeminent presence for your business, organization, or personal brand. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or just ask Alexa to play the Preeminence Podcast.
My friend, you can do far more than you think you can. Do you realize how much more of yourself you can put into anything you're doing? That time when you think you're tired, that time when you think you just can't do anymore, how much more you actually have inside you. This came to me a few weeks ago, and I was exhausted. I was moving from one house to another, and I thought I was going to be cool and do it all myself. I was like, yeah, man, I'll do this. This is easy enough. And so I thought it's going to be a good workout. And so I get the truck and I start loading up the truck. And about halfway through loading the truck up, I was like, you know what? There's a lot of stuff here. There is a lot of stuff. And so I had a 4-wheel dolly thing that I could kind of push up the ramp. But I had a couch. I had a kitchen table, chairs, bed, everything you'd have in a house. And so here I am halfway through, and I get most of the stuff up onto the truck. And I realized, I also have a set for my video set, these 3 big pieces of wall, 12 by 9. It's a backdrop, and it's wood in a frame. And so I lug these things up onto the truck, and I close that door, and I am exhausted. And I get into the truck. I am just covered in sweat. And I realize, I checked with, I think it was WeatherBug. I said, I checked to see what the temperature was. 98 degrees in Florida. And I packed up this thing. And this is because I was going to be going on a trip. And some of you know I was on a trip for over a month. I didn't move into a house. I actually moved into a storage unit first, kind of like traveling and working. And so I had to put the stuff in storage. And it was getting late.
Have you thought about having a podcast of your own, spreading your message in an authoritative way, connecting with people week after week, them getting to know, like, and trust you? I'm helping entrepreneurs just like you create a podcast of their own with the help of my team and I, so you can launch a successful podcast that puts you in the best light and gets your prospects reaching out to you right out of the gate. If you haven't started a podcast yet on your own, chances are you won't do it without the help of someone who knows what they're doing and has experience of producing over 200 podcasts and topics from business to spirituality to the future of leadership to teas of the world and everything in between. Just go to ascend.net/LYPN. Ascend, ASYND.net/LYPN for Launch Your Podcast Now. That's ascend.net/LYPN.
And so I come through the gate to the place where I'm going to put all the stuff into storage, and I pay the guy and I get the keys. I open up the door to this thing, and it was like half the size that I needed. Oh my gosh, so I'm exhausted. I thought, oh, finally I'm going to put the stuff in here. And so I go back to him. It's like, there's no way I can fit everything in this truck in here. And he said, well, that's really what we have. And so here I am, the day of the move. I've got a moving truck for another 3 hours, and I got to find a place. And so I'm calling different places, and I call this one place. It's not too far. And they said, no, we don't have anything. And I was like, you know what? Can you keep checking? Because you say on your website you have all these different things available. Go back and forth. And it's like 5 minutes. And she's like, oh, you mean this? I was like, yes. I need a 20 by 10. I need a 20 by 10 to put everything in. So imagine I've got a moving truck and I got to fill it 20 by 10 with stuff. And I'm exhausted. And so I get there, pay a lot more than I thought I was going to have to pay, open up the back of the truck. I'm exhausted. I have to realize, it's like, you know what? I got to do this. I have to do this now. I didn't ask any friends to help. I thought it was going to be, cool. And I'm going to do my workout. I'm going to just, get this awesome workout. And I was sore. I was dehydrated. And so I start lugging the stuff. I start moving it into the storage unit. And every time I'm looking, I was like, seriously, I thought I could do this all on my own. Sometimes I'm stubborn when I do stuff like that. But about probably 20% into taking the stuff off, I just had to sit down. It was too much. Or so I thought. And I realized all those times my dad working on the farm, being exhausted at like 3:00 in the afternoon, knowing that he had to come in from the barn, from the fields, now go into the barn and milk the cows, either by himself or with a hired hand would be there a few days a week. I remember my dad sometimes stumbling into the barn. Basically I could see he was just beaten down by the day. And when you're a farmer, you have 0 days off. You have no vacations. You work 7 days a week. He would get up at 4 a.m., start his day. He didn't have time to 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. I'm going to meditate and then do my stretching. Then I'm going to have tea. Then I'm going to read for a little while and then journal. Hell no. He got his ass out of bed. Maybe he'd get something quick to eat, and then he had to go to the barn. He had to start, feeding the cows. He had to get the equipment going. He had to work on the tractors. He had to be a mechanic. He had to be a veterinarian. He had so many different jobs to do. He did not have time or a choice to be exhausted. And so it kicked in with me. This is one day. This is a couple hours of moving some stuff. Really, Matthew, you can do this. And so I flipped into this different gear, this new gear. It was just like, I got over myself. I was like, this pain that I feel, this exhaustion that I think I have is just an idea. I know I have another 50, 60, 70% of me here. Like if you were saying death is at 100%, if I gave my all to 100% to be like death, I was probably like 20% when I felt exhausted. So I kicked in this other gear, and then I just went back to work. And I cleared out that van or the truck. I cleared out the truck, closed the door on the storage unit, closed the door on the truck. Again, I was just soaking wet. And I was driving back I was thinking and talking to myself like I was delirious. I must have had heat exhaustion, but I was stubborn and I was going to do it. I was going to finish this. And so I finished it. I pulled into the truck rental and dropped off the keys, got in my car, drove to the first fast food place and got a burger and a big something to drink. I don't even remember what it was now. But I remember I was delirious. I was talking to myself. I was saying stuff to myself. It's like, didn't make any sense. And then I had a webinar to do. This is just a lack of planning or oversimplifying what the task was. I was thinking that this task would be much easier. I was going to get done like 4 hours earlier. I was going to go home, shower, prepare for my live stream, but I didn't. So what I did was I showed up. I put a smile on my face, and I did it from the car because I didn't even have time to get back home. But I told people, I sent out the emails. I posted multiple times in my group and publicly saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this live stream. I'm going to be doing this training on how to podcast. So I showed up. And when I showed up from my car with a live stream. My hair was a mess. I think I may have wore a hat just because my hair was a mess. I showed up after having heat exhaustion, after doing all that day. I underestimated the workload. And I say all this because I want you to understand you have so much more in you than you think you do. And a lot of times when you think you're tired, when you think you've had enough, when you think you can't do another sales call, when you think you can't do another video, when you think, oh man, I can't do a live stream, it's this little teeny part of your brain. Like if you were to put a physical location to it, it's probably your amygdala, and you're saying, I'm afraid to go on. I should protect myself. I should protect my health because I don't want to harm my health. I need to relax now. This is too much for me. And you kick into this small self. You're kicking into this pattern of how you used to do things. But there's a part of you that's bigger than that. And that if you go back to how you used to be, you will never get past it. And so you have a choice. You have a choice to kick into that gear saying, you just kind of like change your state. You like stand up, put your shoulders back, do something to just get you out of that state because you have a whole other gear that you haven't even touched. So right now, where are you thinking that you can't do this? Maybe it's you got to get your 8 hours of sleep. Maybe it's, I got to balance my family time with my work time. I have a couple people say, first of all, the idea of balance is a lie. You can't have a balanced life. You're going to be pushing in one area one time, and then you'll be pushing another area another time. That's one way to look at it. I think I heard that from Dave Ramsey. The other way is, I heard Sean Whalen say, there's no balance between family and your business or your work or whatever. Family is first and is by itself. And then you can balance out all that other stuff. Family is first and you balance all that other stuff. So many times what we're doing and how we feel like we can't go on, or we're tired, or look what time it is, I got to go to bed now. Or I wake up in the morning, it's like, I have my routine. I've got to start the certain way. Guess what? Sometimes you can't do the routine. Sometimes you got to do something different because that's what is called upon you. So all those things that you think you can't do is just an idea. The only thing that's holding you back is your marriage to those patterns, your loyalty to the old self. And when you decide to let go of the old self, saying, you know what, that old self, that old vehicle, that way of thinking is not going to get me out of here. And if you want to get out of there and get into the next level of yourself, it's right there. You don't have to go anywhere. It's a state that you put yourself in saying, you know what? I've got a little more and I've got a little more. And I keep on taking myself to that next level. You know what? I bet I can do even more. I bet I can do even more. You can do that in the gym. Next time you go to the gym, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. Are you? Are you exhausted, or is it that it's 20 minutes is up? Sometimes you'll be on the treadmill. It's like, oh, that's my 2 miles, or that's my 5 miles. Or you'll be like, that's my 20 minutes. I'm so exhausted. You've gotten accustomed to 20 minutes being exhausted. Not that you're actually exhausted, but you've made yourself think you're exhausted because your time is up or you've hit your mile mark. So many times in life, that's what you're doing with everything. You've become accustomed to this thing and you're not actually living in the moment and getting feedback from your body. You're projecting into your reality that you're tired. You're projecting that this is as much as you can give. And you have so much more. So next time you go to the gym, do a little more. Next time you go for a walk, do a little more. Next time you're going to spend time with your kids, invest time with your family. Think, well, I got to go start writing some emails, or I got to do that thing. Do it a little longer. Next time your kid wants to play with Legos, or they want to draw pictures with you or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is getting really boring. I got other things to do. Go a little longer because you have it in you. When you feel you're so tired, you got to take a nap. Really? Do you really have to take a nap, or are you just accustomed to taking naps at that time? Push yourself, because you got so much more in you that you haven't even tapped into. My friends, this may be the last episode that I do on a regular basis. I've got a new podcast I'm creating. I'm really excited about. It's a different format. It's a different level. And I still have some episodes I'm going to be putting out. I may be doing this once a month, a Preeminence podcast. I'm not sure right now. I'm going to play it by ear, but I'm really excited about this next podcast I'm coming out with. I'll be sure to let you know. Thank you so much for being a listener to this podcast for the last several months, last several episodes, the last year or so. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you in the new podcast coming soon.
Thank you for listening to the Preeminence Podcast. Subscribe to hear powerful interviews and insights each week automatically downloaded the moment they go live. Share this episode with your team, your friends, and post it on social media. Let us know your comments and suggestions for the show at m@ascend.net. That's the letter M at ASYND.net.